Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the L1 show, Linked with Friends. Today is April 13th, and we're going to do government and security stories to start your week.
And we love it when we can say, finally, it's over. Finally, this 5-year saga has ended, but there's always an appellate at the end. I don't know when we ever escape it, but not quite yet.
The Verge's headline is Apple asks court to halt App Store rule changes while it appeals. Now, it's already let app developers make the changes to their apps. To Apple's credit, they sent out a memo like hours after the ruling that said, hey, if you want to add buttons or whatever for your own payment thing, we don't care. But this appeal says that, hey, that 27% that we were planning to collect, even if you charge your users for your thing somewhere else, just because you're on the App Store, we want 27% of whatever you charge for access to your application. They're telling the judge that is going to cause irreparable harm to the company, and it's just going to be really terrible. And
$1 billion company, by the way.
Yeah, I just want you to think of the electric company. The electric company has their hand out. It's like, yeah, we charge you for the electricity, but you also owe us a percentage of all the money that you make with the electricity.
So do we have any lawyers in the audience? Like, how many times can you appeal before they finally say, please stop?
We have a lot of AI lawyers in the audience.
Well, I looked it up on ChatGPT, and they told me this. Also, they said that was a really good question.
You're inviting even more bots to participate in the comments? Good Lord.
I think I might have consolidated the two stories here, but one of the reasons that they did what you said and immediately did that is because they're facing contempt charges.
That was a different appeal.
Yeah, so they're really, really on shaky ground here, but they're still pushing.
This is a judge that doesn't have like a super deep technical understanding of things, but they've earnestly tried to understand, and they looked at the horror. Because this is a 3 or 4 year old ruling at this point, but they looked at what Apple did and they said, this isn't the spirit of my ruling at all. And Apple's appeal said, no, a loophole's a loophole. You left the loophole. We used the loophole. There's nothing wrong with that.
I want them to get contempt so bad. That would be so much fun. Did perp walk them out of the campus?
They'll never do that.
No, they won't.
They reserve that for heroes like Mario's brother.
Well, that is not the only judge causing some consternation in the big tech world. And here is another judge who, like you just described, may not understand every nuance of the case, but do you really need to when you're looking at something like this?
The Ars Technica headline is Judge on Meta's AI training. I just don't know how this can be fair use. So Meta is looking at, that they pirated a bunch of books and torrented things. And it's like, well, it seems like you're going to harm the market because people can just ask the AI and then they don't have to read the book. And you certainly benefited from the author writing
all of your training content that you're now just regurgitating word for word.
So surely that's not okay under U.S. copyright law. And it kind of is right now, but the judge is saying this is an injustice, which may also be true.
There was a great exchange where the defense was like, listen, whoever, Sarah Silverman can't say that like every possible output of our LLM is based on her work. Like, how could you make that argument? And the judge was like, yeah, but she can argue that you could create an output that would replace her work entirely and make many of them, infinite numbers of them. I didn't have a good response for that.
But think how much money that would make us and how happy that would make us.
I also kind of like the idea of, well, first of all, like Meta isn't wrong when they say that if this ruling stops them from using this training data, other countries are just going to ignore it. That is definitely a thing that is happening and will continue to happen. So they're not wrong there. That two wrongs don't necessarily make a right. But I wonder if this opens the door for content that, like, say you and I have licensed. Does that unlock that data going into a model? Because that could be a really interesting economic situation in terms of content production.
They didn't license anything.
No, I mean, but like in the future, like a future scenario is like, oh, here are all the works that I have collected. Can I feed that to my LLM and use that as my, external brain? That seems like that would be a great situation.
Until they start using your memories to build weird versions of you.
Yeah, the AI is gaslighting me. That's Zuckerberg's AI.
Well, a layer of abstraction for that would be Facebook could be your memories, right? So
yeah, Zuck, I don't trust Zuck he's already, like, literally at the shareholder meetings, he's like, here's how we're going to use AI to manipulate people. And it's like,
I mean, they've always been doing that, but now they're just using AI because it's a buzzword. But
No, it's way better.
Yeah, it's better, but I mean, that's always been their business model.
I love this headline.
Last week we learned that Israel was using a massive variety of things to decide who to kill. Most of it automated and based on just surveillance state. But now this isn't confirmed. However, it is maybe much more terrifying.
I really hope the U.S. isn't using X to decide who to bomb. Spoiler alert, they are.
We don't know that for sure. But how it played out was there's a Twitter account who posts about this kind of thing. And it's like, oh, I think I've uncovered this Houthi bunker here based on, I'm looking at satellite, like a GeoGuessr, right?
Yeah.
High stakes GeoGuessr. And
it turned out to be a rock quarry, which is kind of underground.
Which he admitted later, but that happened in the first of the month. By the end of the month, they were airstriking it. And they won't confirm that they got that from there, but they have cited that guy in previous military documents.
This is the idiocracy timeline. Like, how is this not the idiocracy? That's horrifying, first of all. But second of all, how is this not, like, this is literally the idiocracy timeline. Mike Judge is still alive, right? Somebody get him on the phone. What does he think about all this?
And
did somebody send him an email? What's going on?
The current government seems to, even when they have things that seem to align with their agenda, it doesn't seem to be good enough. You have to tear it out and replace it with something similar.
The Reuters headline is the Trump administration to rescind and replace Biden-era global AI chip export curbs. This was the graduated response thing, where it's like certain countries are allowed to buy GPUs with impunity. Certain countries have quotas, and certain countries are on the forbidden list. Wall Street responded very positively to this, and there were also some false headlines that was like, "Oh, finally, we can export GPUs everywhere." But that's not true. It didn't really. It's still going to be problematic to export certain GPUs in certain other places. It's just now there's not multiple sets of conflicting rules. Everything's very messed up right now in the U.S. I'm sorry.
And it seems that Wall Street does have quite a hand in the current devising of rule sets. And this one really, really personifies that.
Trump's CFPB drops enforcement of buy now, pay later rule set rollback for consumer protections. Basically, buy now, pay later was ruled to be hey, this is basically a credit card. You got to follow the same rules as a credit card. And it turns out no. Now, under the new administration, that's not true anymore.
Certain things that you had to tell the customer, like insane fees and
interest
stuff like
rates,
that.
Yeah.
A lot of these don't work on interest rates, though. Or they work on other more hidden ways to take your money. I mean, in the end, it's still a terrible deal. You should not be buying now and paying later if you have an option.
The most egregious thing that this had stopped was when you bought something, but even if you paid it off ahead of time, you paid like as if you were charged interest for the full term. So
cars do that too. I remember being furious about that when I paid my car off.
You have to. Pro tip: whenever you finance a car, ask them about prepayment penalty.
Yeah, I didn't know about that in my 20s. But.
Another pro tip: ask them if they have a prepayment penalty, and if they say no, finance it. Even if you have the money, pay it off the next day. They'll lose a bunch of money.
Punish them.
I like your kind of chaos energy.
Well, I mean, they're trying to steal from me, right?
Yeah.
That's turnabout's fair play. But yeah, buy now, pay later, not a good deal. Avoid it. And we are pulling more things out of the FCC programs.
Senate passes cruel Republican plan to block Wi-Fi hotspots for school kids. So this was a thing. I've used this before, actually. Your local library and your, high school, like middle school libraries, kids can go check out basically Wi-Fi hotspots, and do homework with them or whatever. They're cellular hotspots. But this is, the headline here is a little misleading because the program ran out of money and wasn't renewed by Congress. But the plan it's replaced with doesn't actually provide funding for those things.
It's a weird thing to be worried about considering the situation that we're in.
I mean, I think it's fair. Like, as much work as they require kids to do online now, like in some places like here, there's not internet in rural areas. Like, you might be dependent on that program to get internet to turn any schoolwork.
The public library had a bunch, like when we had that storm and there was outages and whatever,
Yeah.
they had a bunch you could go rent, or not, I don't say rent, but it was like $5 for a week with unlimited data. And it's like, okay, that's reasonable. Thank you, public library.
I think it's reasonable to let the parents deal with that.
Yeah.
That's their problem. They created it. Literally. Remember FTX?
Fortune favors the bold.
Remember when we thought FTX was a big problem in the world? Well, some people have been sort of, sitting on eggshells worried about what's going to happen to them because they promoted FTX. Now, admittedly, they were probably just morons. But now we know for sure a judge has ruled, yes, just morons.
Judge dismisses most charges against FTX celebrity boosters. Now, the judge didn't dismiss everything. There's a couple things where they can amend it, but it'll be interesting to see if they have enough if they have enough wherewithal to actually do that. Also, Matt Damon and Larry David named explicitly in this suit, but also a bunch of YouTubers.
And here's one that should chill your blood just a little bit, considering what we know about LLMs and their penchant for hallucination and really, really doggedly going into falsehoods and supporting them. Being like, no, yeah, that's absolutely true. Let me create my own citations. Because what if we turn them loose on this?
OpenAI and the FDA are holding talks about using AI in drug evaluation.
Now, they did say, right now, we're only going to, maybe we'll just make sure that your submission is complete. Maybe it'll just be, that kind of clerical type of stuff. But they also told us that they weren't going to give the robots guns.
Yeah. Ugh.
And here's a weird one that, I don't understand. This seems like this is just going to upset voters. And what's the gain? I don't know, but they are just doubling down on this.
A new GOP bill seeks to dismantle the online adult content industry, the thing that literally built the internet,
It's
for better or worse.
It's really broad. Their definition was really just anything that could be arousing.
And this is from a law from the 30s.
Yeah. Well, these people are from Utah as well. So
Well, you better take down the court transcripts of Apple losing.
Oh, well, then Utah explains it, right?
Yeah.
That's why they're doing this. Yeah, but I can't remember what the word is. Oh, yeah, patently offensive. And there's another one prurient interests. What a legal loophole that is.
Yeah, you could say anything is.
Right.
Couldn't we say their faces are arousing and then they need to be removed from the internet?
There goes the Goth Knitting Club.
So, yeah, they're looking to shut it all down, basically. At least online. Well, that would be you know what that would do? That would bring back physical media.
In a big way, yeah.
And the Pentagon has figured out that modern software has horrible supply chain problems. Congratulations, guys.
The headline is the Pentagon declares war on quote-unquote outdated software buying and opens fire on open source. But really, they're attacking both things because a lot of the time private companies also use open source. But they say that, hey, the supply chain attack where they almost snuck in vulnerabilities into SSH through the logging facility, that's kind of indirectly called out here. They say, well, we really don't know who's contributing to this and how this works and so on and so forth. Once upon a time, there was a group in the NIST that got money to just audit and work on these things. I wouldn't be opposed to spending Defense Department dollars on that kind of thing. $10 million a year would go a long way toward paying a fairly significant team to keep up with all of the stuff that's going on NPM and all of the stuff that's going on with Ruby gems and all the stuff that's going on with all those packages to look for somebody doing things that are obviously nefarious. And the intelligence industry is probably interested in that as well. They're probably doing it from the opposite side, trying to sneak their own backdoors in.
That's going to be $10 million worth of OpenAI tokens. And another program that might affect your technology is going away.
Trump admin announces plans to shut down the Energy Star program. I'm of two minds about this. On the one hand, Energy Star has been great for consumers historically. On the other hand, it's gotten weird the last 5 or 10 years. I've got that Asus 5K monitor, and the first time you turn it on, it's I have to operate at such low power that I won't operate as well as I possibly can. Would you like to turn all that off? And I'm like, yes, please. And it is an objectively better monitor.
But it gives you the option, in that case.
It's also true of washing machines, at least for water. I don't know about power, but yeah. These corporations, they're like fenced in, but they want to make a better product, so they just put loopholes in it. Yeah, we're probably wasting money here. Also, there's the tax credit thing.
Do you think the utility companies had a hand in that?
Oh, for sure. Well, I don't know about the utility companies. Probably
They
more
want
the
you to use more
manufacturers.
water and more electricity, right?
But I think Samsung is probably the one.
I want a washing machine that has like 3 transistors. Like, which company can build me a washing machine that has the least number of transistors? That's the one I want to buy.
Just get a board. Just a washboard.
Well, I still want it to be a good washing machine.
Make a bike that has the thing in the front, and then just agitate it.
You
with
can do
yourself.
your cardio. While
Yeah.
you agitate your clothing.
The one thing at first it was like, oh, they're using the drum to run the pump that pumps out the water with a relay. That's really clever. And then later I'm like, you know what? I can afford to buy a separate water pump. That's probably fine.
And we had some leaks with there was the whole Telegram signal thing, and then we had
And then another one.
some compromises, and a lot of things washed out from that were what these people had on their phones and such, but also what passwords were they using. And this one was it was upsetting.
Tulsi Gabbard reused the same weak password on multiple accounts for years. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We've got like 6 stories about government officials doing the most dumb thing possible, which is borderlines on like deliberate. Are they doing this deliberately so that they can leak stuff to foreign governments? Like, that's the only no one is this dumb. Not even in the Idiocracy universe.
So her password was like Sharad or Shadar or something like that. Shrada. And that
Not
turns
even
out-
any like special characters or like. Wow.
It was all lowercase.
Wow.
If that helps. It turns out that's some kind of weird religious movement that her family was in before she was born. So I don't know about that.
Alarming.
Yeah, very. She used it on her email, on Reddit, on those Signal chats. Like, she used it everywhere.
Those Signal chats also, do we have a story about that? That we're not using the official Signal client, which is why it was hacked.
I think we did that last week, didn't we?
Did we? I don't know. So yeah, it turns out the whole like, oh, not only was it, or it's like, oh, they hacked Signal. No, they didn't hack Signal. They hacked it. It's like, oh, we don't want to use the official Signal client in case it has a backdoor. I found some random thing on GitHub.
And we've been firing a lot of people in the government. And of course, we were told that we didn't need them, but in fact, it might have been this plan.
IRS hopes to replace fired enforcement workers with AI. This is AI that's going to harass you to make payments if the IRS decides that you need to make payments.
So it's even easier to ignore, you're saying.
And this is the audit team. So, yes, AI will be auditing you.
Fabulous.
That'll be fun. Although if it's like, OpenAI and Anthropic, it'll be like, oh, your purchases are so brilliant and wonderful. You owe us $10,000. We are also, unfortunately, I think not only is Wall Street having more of a presence in the administration, but also the law enforcement unions seem to be getting everything that they want.
The DEA once touted body cameras for their enhanced transparency. Now the agency is abandoning them. I just go back to the whole, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Like, isn't that the great thing? Like, oh, we're all equal before the law. This would seem to suggest that that is not the case.
Do you know how hard it is to plant drugs when you have a body cam on?
How am I supposed to beat this person in my custody if I have a camera on?
There are a lot of great videos on YouTube that show, like, there are police that have planted drugs in incredibly subtle ways that would have only been caught via the body cam. And a lot of very unfortunate Americans that were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's horrifying.
So this story, compare and contrast this with that in terms of police no longer get surveillance, even though it's outward-facing surveillance. It's not actually looking at them. But we get all the surveillance, and because we now have DOGE and Palantir working together, we're starting to get a picture of exactly how much that was, and boy, was it a lot.
The MSN.com headline is American Panopticon, but this echoes a lot of things that we've said before on a lot of these programs, or a lot of the shows that we've done, in that when you put all these things together, it is absurd. Now, the IRS was highly resistant to sharing their data with outside agencies. Historically, they really haven't. But one of the goals, apparently, for this administration, based on the actions of DOGE and other stories that we've covered is putting all these databases together, which is horrifying because if you're a pleb, then it's like, explain this innocent action.
But that's such a false argument. Who cares? They shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we should keep these siloed. No, we should burn those silos to the ground. That's what we should do.
I can agree with that.
You don't need that. You can't protect it. That's
the biggest problem.
that's so obvious. And if it's such a risk, then it's too much of a risk for you to have.
Not only can you not protect it, you have states like California that we have shown to be selling the driver's license database. Like,
Hell, our public officials are just, casually texting that kind of information. I mean,
yeah.
And one of their best customers is having a bumper crop this year.
How Palantir, the secretive tech company, is rising in the Trump era. Well, guess what? This company was built to parse all of that data. This is not good.
And has been hired to do that. And they actually, it's funny because now the mask is off, right? He actually made a statement as like, sometimes we're going to kill people. We're going to do that. We're going to kill them.
I have dark Krista thoughts that I'm going to keep inside.
You have to keep your dark Krista thoughts inside, but he can say his.
Yeah.
And this was the best troll. I don't know who's made this decision.
He
but my
claims it
God,
wasn't him. I don't know if I believe that.
This was the most hilarious thing that happened all week.
The independent.co.uk says, quote-unquote clown, Donald Trump slammed for AI-generated Pope post.
Hasn't he made multiple comments at this point that he'd like to be the Pope?
He did say he would.
And it's like...
he said he'd be a good Pope, I think.
Why?
The meta here for us is that did we ever, when we started doing this program, did we ever envision a timeline where we would be discussing AI-generated memes from the president as it's like, oh yeah, I've envisioned myself as the Pope, and then that turned into some sort of controversy.
Well, he didn't create it, but the White House Twitter account did tweet it. So
again, dark Krista thoughts here, and I got to keep them inside. I got to bottle them up, and then they'll just stay there and never come out.
I really also enjoy the shot across the bow from the Catholic Church, which is like, we're going to elect an American Pope, first time in history, because the Americans are having a lot of problems right now. And also, he's going to assume the name Leo, which has a lot of connotations that go with it.
And not to be outdone, obviously, if the White House retweets your meme AI-generated thing, then everybody else is going to try to get on that too, right?
White House releases yet another AI-generated image of Trump, this time as in jacked Sith Lord.
So they didn't...
Did they not include the picture?
No,
in the post?
Deadline didn't put the picture in there. But here you go.
I just what?
Now, whoever posted this, again, this is the White House. This is the White House Twitter account. Do you think whoever posted that understood the ramifications of the red saber?
Yeah, it is the equivalent of blinking SOS. From inside the White House.
I don't think they created it, but they did choose to tweet it. And if you're wondering when we will get to that live in the pod and eat the bugs portion, here is maybe the first step.
Musk gets his wish. SpaceX launch site is approved as the new city of Starbase. And the entire rest of the AP article goes on to wonder why they want a company town named Starbase and what they intend to accomplish and how rural and not populous this area already is.
Let's look at a lesson from history from our part of the world. Company towns are not a good thing. You don't want to live in the company town.
The big things that they seem to care about here, first of all, they're already maintaining the roads, and they're already doing a security service.
Fire service.
Yeah. But now, I don't know if they've gotten it yet, but they're looking to get the power to shut down the beach. Because I don't think they can launch if there's people on the beach or something.
Prior articles that we've covered about this suggested that the whole reason they wanted to do this was to shut down the beach.
That seems to be the reason. And moving over to Europe, they have their new online safety laws, which are insane. And a lot of the websites are starting to really, peel back the layers and read the fine print. And are like, I don't even know if we can continue to do business.
Wikipedia legally challenges flawed online safety rules, this time in the UK. And because Wikipedia is as large as it is, it supposedly falls under the most strict requirements that the UK law has. But Wikipedia does point out a number of flaws, and their arguments sound reasonable.
Of course, because the law is insane. The biggest one would be you're not allowed to have anonymous users in charge of, deciding what can be on the site or not. So if this were to be upheld, every Wikipedia editor would have to be on file, which means that would get leaked.
Yeah, there's a big difference between anonymous and pseudo-anonymous, and like, well, we know their email address, and it's like, oh, that's not good enough for this law. You have to have their photo
real
ID.
address, yeah.
We need to be able to hunt them down so that we can silence them. That's usually what it goes. There's a chilling effect that goes with that. It's like, oh, I don't want to say that online if it can be traced back to me because what is it that happens to people who speak the truth?
Now, if you've had some work done in the UK and you've decided not to pay for that, first of all, shame on you. But second of all, the robots are coming.
SRA OK's first AI law firm in bid to broaden access to justice. So it still has to be reviewed by real lawyers, but the AI can write contracts and do things like that.
No, this is debt collection.
Or debt collection, okay.
So if you owe this AI for, I think they said it would be, what, £2, would do all the paperwork for you. And you just mail it out. Start the process. There's going to be a lot of people getting letters.
Oh, yeah. But a real lawyer has to, like, audit that or look over it or something.
Right. Well, you wait for the person to respond to see what they're going to do.
Okay.
And then it gets to the next level. And then, yeah, a real lawyer will step in, but you don't have to pay somebody to go through that.
But that was vetted by the courts or whatever. They're like, that's probably fine.
Yeah, that's what they said. I don't know if I agree. And the Swiss, God bless them, this happened a couple of years ago, and they came out in droves and said, no, we will not be having this. And this is how politics works, folks. When you say no to something that the government wants, they wait a small amount of time, and they do it again.
Switzerland will hold referendum on introducing electronic ID. And the Swiss people know what that means, and they are not having a good time.
Well, hopefully they say no again. How long?
Let's hope.
Yeah.
I don't know when that happens. I think it's fairly soon. But they got a lot of signatures on the petition to force the referendum. Otherwise, this would have just been pushed through. Electronic Evidence ID Act.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't it like 53,000? It was only a few signatures that were invalid. They really tried to invalidate a lot of signatures, and it failed.
And it certainly seems like the only valuable skill going forward is going to be AI, maybe even for a short amount of time there. But hey, if you want to future-proof yourself, learn AI. And United Arab Emirates are at the forefront of that.
UAE is rolling out AI for school kids, a new push for sector forefront. Let's learn how to work with the AI and how to prompt the AI and how the AI works under the hood. Let's do math problems with the AI. This doesn't seem unreasonable. But it is interesting.
And add another one to the list. It's so many countries now are following this stupid path.
New Zealand's Prime Minister proposes a social media ban entirely for children under 16.
How do you enforce that? Remind me?
You need everybody's photo ID on file.
That's right. Yeah, you have to confirm identity proactively, which means everybody's identified online. And the trade war is going strong. The Chinese currency not doing well, but a neighbor of theirs really having the opposite effect.
I'd say the dollar's not doing well either. 10% surge in Taiwanese currency versus US dollar could hurt PC and components pricing because the dollar is not going to be able to purchase quite as much because Taiwan is killing it. Good job, Taiwan.
Except Taiwan doesn't like that.
Yeah.
They want exports.
Yeah.
So they're actually looking at economic things they can do to drive down their currency. But I guess if you are in Taiwan and ordering abroad, that's great for you. And here's the one that we had. I should have put this one earlier. Oh, you know what? I put this in security.
App used by Trump advisor is temporarily suspending services after reported hack. Yeah, it had some hard-coded secrets and a lot of other really terrible things that was just... you have people in the security agency that you could just email and be like, hey, can you use your giant brain and figure out if this software is, terrible? And then they would email you back and be like, oh, Lord, don't use this.
The best we can do is just an AI-generated answer.
So, yeah, it was not a super popular version of that technology. It was just one that got past whatever he couldn't install. So... they weren't ready for the spotlight, and oh boy, did they get the spotlight. And people immediately started tinkering with it. And we have a lot of these DOGE rock stars, these young kids who are in there just vibing their way through the government. And a lot of people are also putting a spotlight on them.
DOGE software engineer's computer infected by info stealing malware. So this is somebody on the dark web noticed, like, hey, oh, these passwords and user accounts, oh, this is connected to the controversy. This may be, remember when we reported, was it last week or the week before, about how somebody in Russia was trying to log in with valid usernames and passwords, which was blocked by the geo access rules at the what was it, the department? No, it wasn't the Department of Labor. It was one of the employment related things. But that could explain. It's like, oh, we're innocent. We didn't know we had horrible info stealing malware on there. That is that is some great spycraft going on right there.
Is it that impressive when the kid's like 19?
He's 30s in his 30s.
A bunch of them are like 19, though.
And if you've purchased something from a small web store recently, you might want to keep an eye on that bank statement because this was fairly wide-reaching.
Hundreds of e-commerce sites hacked in supply chain attack. So it wasn't the e-commerce sites themselves, it was their payment processor.
This affected the Magecart, Magento type of shopping carts. And these are like third-party applications for that.
There's a lot of them. The GDPR pop-up, it's like, oh, instead of building a GDPR pop-up ourselves, our agency that doesn't have any skills will just install the GDPR plugin onto the store. Congratulations, the credit card numbers have now been stolen. Good job.
And the e-learning world, obviously, had a big boost during the pandemic, and then they kind of just stayed around. Some people like to, get the extra education or do the online stuff. Here's a bad news. I think this is in the UK, right? If you're using Pearson.
Education and Pearson hit by cyberattack, exposing customer data. They were kind of tight-lipped with their disclosure here, but it seems like the attackers got a lot of info.
It was either this one or the cart one, where they'd been dormant for 6 years.
Yeah.
Just waiting patiently. That's impressive. And we knew that this had happened, but we didn't know every car company that had done this. But the hilarious thing about this is how this was revealed was from a progressive employee, just straight up admitting to the person, oh, you don't need to enter that data. I already have it.
Oh.
Class action accuses Toyota of illegally sharing data's driver with Progressive. It's going to be another court case that we're watching. Interesting. I hope they don't settle out of court. I want to see what comes up in discovery.
But per Progressive, it's definitely true. It'll save you a lot of time when you're signing up for car insurance because they've already spot on you. So convenient. And one thing about AI is that it's out there and sometimes it's just operating on its own. And I don't know who tried to make it do this or why they would do it, but it's doing it, and that can cause its own problems.
Open source project Curl is sick of users submitting AI slop vulnerabilities. So they talk about, there's one of these exchanges that was made public, and they got a really amazing, perfectly well-formatted thing that was like, hey, we think this HTTP3 thing is going to be a bug in curl, and like, here's how you exploit it. And then when the researchers or the authors, the actual programmers started digging into it, they were like, this doesn't make sense, or this isn't a thing. And they asked for clarification because they didn't yet realize that it was AI slop. And then the person responding to it is almost like they just copy pasted it into ChatGPT. It was definitely a person because they accidentally pasted in some text that was like, would you like me to make it a sterner response? And one of the prompt things was like, make it sound urgent. And so it's just like there are people that are trying to stuff their credentials by saying, it's like, oh, I can use AI to do security analysis, which is one of the hardest things to do. And if you don't understand what it is you're asking the AI to do, then it's very bad.
That's where we're headed. That's all society's going to be like that.
People misusing AI, not understanding. Oh, yeah. Dealing with like a Karen who doesn't understand what the AI is telling her. And it's just, yeah. It's fabulous.
All right, well, on that happy note, we will be back next episode with, what sections? I don't remember.
Hardware and business.
Hardware and business.
No.
Business is hardware.
Business and social media.
Oh, social media. All right, we'll see you then.
So much hardware.